Hey, Jimmy Murphy here on the Boston Hockey Now pregame podcast for Game 2, Florida Panthers and Boston Bruins at TD Garden tonight, 7:30 p.m. on an array of channels, but locally you can definitely catch it on NESN still for the first round. And speaking of NESN, joining me now is NESN Bruins and NHL analyst and former Boston Bruins goalie Andrew Raycroft. Razor, how are you doing?
Wonderful, ready to go.
All right. So, Razor, we'll get right into it here. Before we get into the goaltending aspect of everything right now, Jim Montgomery confirming to us just a few hours ago that no Patrice Bergeron again for Game 2. And then when I asked him right after that, could this be something that lingers throughout the series and maybe even keeps him out for the entire series? He did not rule that out at all. Said it very much could. It just depends on the situation, where they are in the series, where he feels there's a lot of things that will factor into it. But just your take on what's going on there, and I guess so far, how have the Bruins responded without him?
Well, I guess I don't have too much of a take other than it's a wait and see game. Obviously, at least he's skating. I suppose that's a positive.
Right.
But I think with him not in the lineup, it's been pretty impressive how they've played 5-0 in the season. I thought they didn't have a great game one, but I don't think it was because Patrice wasn't there. I think it was more of what they were doing in the back end and what they were doing in their own zone. So Zaka has proven he's more than capable in that position. They've talked about depth. They knew they were going to miss guys throughout this run. Happened early, but I think they have to feel very confident and comfortable in what the other guys can do and how they can play, that they can get through this first round without him.
Yeah, and a great point by you. That Zucker, I think, what a steal that's turning out to be. He's just been so versatile for Jim Montgomery this year, and I thought, you make a great point. It wasn't because there was somebody missing there at center. It was more sort of what they were doing overall. And to the Bruins' credit too, they to a man admitted that they didn't have it the other night, and for a good portion of the game. And I would say I agree with Jim Montgomery when he says, "Look, I thought we came out fast, we came out strong, and then there was that lull, but then we found it again in the third period." And Razor, I mean, I've been covering the Bruins now for over 20 years. Geez, I'm getting old, and I can't remember a third period team like this that was this dominant in the third period. It's just like a light flicks on and boom, they just take over, especially on home ice too. What's been your impression of just the third period mentality this team has?
Oh, it's incredible. And it goes to how many good players they have. When you can really lean on Orlov and Lindholm and McAvoy on the back end, and the penalty kill is so good. And then, of course, the goaltender's making some saves. It's just they have that lead. One goal's tough and two's insurmountable, essentially. Yeah. So it is impressive, and it goes to their focus in game and just they know what it takes. And we saw it again in game one. The more leads they have, you're going to continue to see it. I just don't, there's nothing there that's like, it's not magical. It's something they repeat every night on a daily basis. And they feel so confident in it now. It's just, you roll it out and they go hard.
Yeah. And it's ironic. I think off the top of my head, I can't think of all, what were there, like maybe 2 or 3 blown leads in the third period all season long. But one of them was against this Florida Panthers team back in late January there. And then, that last second comeback to tie it. And then they scored, I think, in the first minute in overtime. And I remember thinking, watching that game, Razor, okay, so there's no doubt, even at that point, I wasn't doubting that they weren't, they were a good third period team. But is there sometimes that overconfidence, like, okay, we're going to kind of lollygag it through the game and then we can just turn it on like that? It's always, but they don't have that. And that's what I love about them. And you talk about the skill they have, but it's also the leadership. I mean, I think about just all those guys that they have that are able to almost be, I like to call them Reg Dunlops for Jim Montgomery on the ice there, the player coach. And he's said it so many times, how blessed he is. What have you thought about that kind of relationship, chemistry, synergy, whatever you want to call it, between Montgomery and the veteran leadership core?
Well, this core and Patrice and Brad and Krejci, I would assume, are the older guys, and then
Yeah.
but you fill in with McAvoy and Pasternak, Coils of the world. They get it, and no one wants it more than them. No one's competed more than them over time, and I think you add Don and you add Cam to that as well, in the whole organization and how they've communicated with each other and how they've made this group over dozens of years with natural selection and going through ups and downs, just so open, and they're all on the same page, and they pull the same way, and they listen to each other. And Montgomery's been able to do that very seamlessly and just come in and filled all those boxes, checked all those boxes, like he says all the time, to just allow this group to continue to be successful. Hasn't messed with anything.
So, I wasn't in an NHL dressing room. Obviously, you were. Did you play on a team like that where you had guys who were perfect conduits, so to speak, between the coaching staff and the players, especially getting that message across to the younger guys? Because, look, sometimes the younger part of the team, I would imagine, can't sometimes relate. It's just the way it goes to the older group. Have you played on a team before like that where you just sort of had that perfect message senders, I guess would be the name?
Yeah, for sure. There's and most teams have a few of those guys. It's when you have I think it's really the middle core that's different in this situation. Yeah. And I think that the Carlos, I left Carlo out. I think he's a big part of that as well, with the McAvoys and the Pasternaks and the Coils and the DeBrusks. And there's just that middle group, that middle part that get it. And I mean, there's not a lot of young guys, and this league is full of young guys. And Torts has talked about it. All the old school guys have talked about how many mistakes get made in this league all the time now. And the way the young kids are now, it's just a different game. But the Bruins are kind of old school in that. And I think now is the time, this playoff time is when they have all those old guys that pays off.
Yeah, I credit them though too. They are old school. But I feel like almost the Montgomery hire, Razor, was kind of blending the old and the new. They kind of look. I think Bruce was a great coach. He did a great job here. I was a big fan of his. But he was almost strictly old school. I felt like, where there was maybe sort of that divide or disconnect, even with the middle leadership core that you just referenced there. I feel like that middle leadership core is just relating more to Jim, maybe just his approach, right? So I think that's pretty good of Montgomery, how he recognized that.
Yeah, I mean, with Bruce, he was here 6 years. His message got stale. That's very obvious. He was certainly sarcastic many nights, and I think that wears on guys over a long period of time. And Montgomery's been the perfect voice, and you have to give Don and Cam and the Jacobs family for recognizing that he was going to be a perfect fit, and he's done that.
Yeah, and you can't credit him for what he's been through off the ice to do what he's doing now and get back to a head coaching spot. Let's get into the goaltending, Razor. Look, I don't know about you. I don't know what game Paul Maurice watched, but he has been, I'll tell you what, Roberto Luongo would have loved Paul Maurice as a coach. Huh? He's pumping the tires of Alex Lyon like nothing happened the other night. What was your take on Lyon's performance? Do you think it was as good as Paul Maurice is portraying it to be?
No, and neither does Paul Maurice. I mean, that's all gamesmanship. He has nothing else. He's got if he knows he's going with Lyon game 2, then he can't say that he was bad. Again, that's that old school. Maybe we would have heard that from Bruce Cassidy last year, but not nowadays, and not with Alex Lyon. I think it was a soft goal, but he made some big saves too. So tonight's a big test, because now the Bruins have seen him in the Garden. They've got a better feel for him as well. So this is when the new adjustments get made with a goaltender, right, as well, and that'll be interesting to see how that works. And this is a big spot. You can't go down to 2-0 for this team. This is like win or go home for the Panthers tonight. So
do you think? I mean, is there a quick hook if things go awry early on? You think, for the Florida Panthers?
I doubt it. I don't think. I mean, there's probably a quick hook for next game, but I don't think it's necessarily, if he gives up one goal, they're going to go like Bob does. it's not really a great way to go into the game. So no, this is Lions' game. This is his thing, and it'll be interesting to see how he responds.
Okay, now I read Fluto's column with him suggesting in the Athletic there, him suggesting that they do a rotation. I am 100% with you, Andrew. I think it's a crazy idea. You go with one guy. I can think of maybe one team off the top of my head that won a Stanley Cup doing a legit rotation, and it was probably the 2010 Blackhawks, and that's it. And I don't even know if I would call them.
No, they didn't.
They didn't, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it was Niemi all the way. I played in that. I played them in the second round.
Yeah. So no, I don't see that happening. I don't know why you would do that. What are you with me on that?
Yeah. No. There won't be a rotation. It's not a thing. We're gonna probably there's a very good chance we see both guys. But no rotation. And listen, Allmark's playing game 2. So then that goes right out the window.
Right.
Again, you're going to see all these players. If the Bruins want to win 20, get through 25 games here, 26 games, Grizzlies are playing, Greers are playing, everyone's playing, everyone's going to be in the mix. And I wouldn't discount Swayman from that either.
What's been your take on Allmark this year and why he was so good? I look at my take quickly is takes a year to adapt. Your new team, new environment. You're coming from a bad situation, and then all the off-ice stuff. You get your family settled. How much of that do you think played a role? And what else have you seen more on the technical side that you can comment on?
Well, yes, all of those things. And he was good last year. Yeah. And of course it's circumstance. You always go circumstance first with goaltenders. This team is so much better. He's got Lindholm and a healthy Lindholm and a McAvoy in front of him. I don't think that was really the case. And when he did last season, he was really good at the end of last year when Lindholm came in. To play the 2 games in the playoffs, I thought he was really good last year. They lost in Carolina. They lost all 4 games in Carolina. Mm-hmm. So I think, but what he's done, of course, he's taken it to another level. He's very comfortable with Bob. They've had good dialogue. They've had good back and forth and really know where each other's coming from. So I think they've got on the same page, and his size and his confidence is at another level. And that's the comment I get from most people when they watch, especially after game 1, is just how calm and confident he looks and how he's playing. It's jumping through the screen. And that comes from a bunch of different ways. You touched on it, just being happy and healthy, and your family's happy and healthy. Mm-hmm. Your teammates, you love it here. And then of course, just how good you feel about yourself.
You mentioned his size there. What does a goalie, for us goalie novices out there, what does a goalie have to do to really make that size a factor?
Stay patient, like he has on a lot of the plays and the chaos around the net. He's not chasing it. He's just staying in his crease, in his net, not extending himself, not opening up holes, and just trusting that pucks will hit him. If he has the right depth, because of his size, he can take trajectory away from the puck, and there's not really many holes. And if they do go in, then he tips his cap and moves to the next one. He hasn't changed his game no matter the situation all season. I think that's another big part of his success.
All right, final question. I don't know what you'd said before the series started, but how many games do you think this is going?
5. Yeah. Okay. Florida's a good team. They have good players, prideful players. I think they grab 1 maybe. And but I just Boston has too much, and I think the goaltending at the end of the day is really going to prove out that way.
All right, I got to ask you, what's that hat?
It's just a Boston hat. I was bought the
really? That's cool, man.
Snapback company. I think I've had it for a long time.
I'm trying to see if it first it looked like an
A. Blue bee. Yeah, it's
okay.
Blue, or a green bee. Blue. Green bee. Sorry, green bee.
Yeah, so I thought maybe it was Celtics.
I don't know if it's Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins, a little bit of everything.
Like it. And then I was going to ask you if it was Morning Brew.
No Morning Brew. No, we got mugs and coolers and sweatshirts. We're not in the hat. I tried to get Jaffe to sell everything, but he doesn't want his house turning into Amazon. So
you think he'd want more hats?
Nah.
Hey, good stuff, man. And of course, tell our listeners where they can find that as well.
Morning Brew at Jaffe and Razor, and that's wherever you get all these podcasts.
It's on the national site too, or what?
It's on Nesson too. Yeah. It would be on Nesson. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, my man. I'll see you at the rink, and have a good one.
Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. Have a
Andrew
good one.
Raycroft joining us here on the BHN podcast. I'm Jimmy Murphy, and I'm going to give you a prediction tonight. I'm thinking 4-2 Bruins. All right. Brad Marchand, 2 goals. There's my prediction, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you before game 3.